Hey Dude,
The 90s Called
with Christine Taylor and David Lascher.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Hey Dude, the 90s Called podcast. I'm David.
Hi, David. I'm Christine.
What's up,
Welcome,
beautiful?
everybody. Hi.
How are you?
Good. Really good. We're in summer swing, right? You've got a graduation. There's been so many graduations. Now you have one.
Well, yeah, I didn't. I'll be honest about this.
Please share. Please share with our listeners, because this is always good. Because we've all been there, sort of. I never have.
I use my calendar like for everything. Anything I put right in my calendar. And for some reason, I didn't have my daughter's 8th grade graduation in my calendar. And we had 2 guests this week, so I was a little off. And then our amazing guest, Steve Guttenberg, was accommodating. We had to make it a few hours earlier so that I could go to my daughter's graduation.
And I was saying to you that for all of the craziness of you trying to reschedule this, your job to do this, I was only imagining the hell you were getting at home from Jill for not having that on your calendar.
I'll say this. She's not wrong. It's not a good look. And I don't want to make too much of it because my daughter is my priority. My family's my priority, but
we know that. We know that. Sometimes things slip through the cracks. Also, when it's a busy time and there's dates every day and just one thing misses. But I will say, you do rely on that calendar. And remember when you wished me a happy birthday, like in February?
Well, my calendar lied to me that day. It said Christine Taylor's.
Right.
It came up on my computer.
Your calendar wasn't wrong. It just lied to you that day. That's totally.
Maybe I rely on it too much. It's not as accurate. But
first of all, just because we have a little time to do a proper introduction to our guest who isn't in the waiting room yet. So I feel like this is really exciting for us because, David, I don't know about you. I grew up watching Steve Guttenberg in everything.
Yes.
There were movies that we'll talk about. We also, he's promoting a book about becoming a caregiver for his father in the last year or so of his life. And that's what we also want to talk about. But his movies, like, I have such visceral memories of the Police Academy movies in our house.
Gosh, yeah.
Those movies, because there were like, 4 of them? Police Academy, Cocoon, Short Circuit, like these movies that were iconically very 80s, but then he moved into the 90s and did sequels to all of them. And 3 Men and a Baby. Like, Steve Guttenberg was in everything, not to mention your favorite, Diner.
Well, yeah, Diner. I mean, Diner started off so many actors. I mean, we had Tim Daly on, Steve Guttenberg's here, Kevin Bacon, Mickey Rourke. One of my all-time favorite movies.
Yes. So I just feel like this is, when we heard that he might be interested in coming on and talking to us, this was like, we really wanted to make this happen.
Yeah, and you know what I loved about him that he, I don't know how to say this. He was an everyman kind of movie star. You know what I mean? It's like I look at Brad Pitt and I'm like, okay,
I don't relate to that.
I can admire him,
yes,
but he's not me. But Steve Guttenberg was all of us.
Yes.
Yes,
exactly. I feel like there's something, and, I really want to talk to him about this too. It just feels like the roles he played and the characters he played had so much of who he is. Like, as I've been doing a little research and reading up and reading about his book and just who he is as a person and a human being. He's just, and we, you shared with me, because I'm so bad on social media, but his Instagram account, which is all about positivity. It's all about sharing love, sharing light, sharing the good, finding the good.
Yes. Somebody told me to follow Steve Guttenberg because he gives these little morning walks through Manhattan and he finds something positive, some message. I mean, and talk is very personal about what he's going through, how he can turn. There was one that he did the other day that he woke up in a bad mood and he was late and chaotic, and how he turned it around for himself. And it's like, it's useful. It helps people.
Yeah, and it's such a like to have something like that to go to for him to utilize his platform in that way. Um, as you know, like I always say to my kids, and I say like I always say, try to find three things to be grateful for.
Hmm.
Because there's so much we can complain about. I mean, like with kids in school, the first everything is a complaint about homework and schedule and everything. And I was like, that's all real. And I get that. But try to just three things. And it can be really fundamental. It can be really basic. Like, I'm grateful I have a pillow to sleep on. I'm grateful I have dogs that I love. I'm grateful for my family. Simple, simple things. That's a foundation.
I agree. Making a gratitude list.
Yeah.
Getting outside, getting into nature.
Yeah. And for Steve to share this and do this in a way where he's sharing it with, hundreds of thousands of followers that, I just think it's so a chain reaction effect. It's like that, what he's putting out there makes an impact to the people. Like you said, it really makes a difference. You hear about somebody starting their day in a bad mood and turning it around and you're like, wait, why can't I do that?
Right. And it's very authentic. It's not like he's a motivational speaker, that's up on a stage, like a Tony Robbins. He's just being honest, sharing his experience.
Right.
And he seems genuinely like a really positive person,
Amazing.
Yep. I
Amazing.
love him.
I'm very excited. Also, our Chrissy, our producer, put in the chat that there were 8 Police Academy movies.
Oh my goodness. 8. That's got to be a record. How many? So 7 sequels?
Yeah, other than like horror movies that always have, Friday the 13th and those movies, they have like 8 sequels, and Halloween and those things. But for a comedy,
that's right.
To have 8 sequels, or I guess an original and 7 sequels, is amazing. All right.
That is seriously amazing.
And he's here. He's here. He's here, everybody. All right. Shall we bring in our guest of honor, Steve Guttenberg?
Let's welcome him. Welcome to our show, Steve. Thank you for being here.
It is a pleasure, beyond pleasure, to be in your company and watching the two of you. I've seen your show before, and I really like it. It's great.
Steve,
you guys are
thank
terrific.
you.
Thank you.
I feel like we were this all sort of happened because we had your dear friend Rachel Tickerton on a few weeks ago, and in real time during the interview, she said, who'd be great on the show? Steve.
Oh,
have you guys had Steve on? And I love Rachel and Peter with all of my heart. And I heard that you were dear friends with them as well. So so we have Rachel to thank for this.
Yes.
Yeah, Rachel is just one of the special peoples on the earth. That she's smart and generous, giving, real. She is very real, the real deal, and has an extraordinary talent too. We can't ignore her craft. Her craft is brilliant. She's just such a good actress. I saw her do the Scottish play with Patrick Stewart. Did you see that by any chance?
No, I did not see that.
I'm trying to think I don't know if she did it at the Imperial or where she did it, but she was fantastic, just so great. So she can do, she can work with Clint Eastwood and Denzel Washington in an action movie, or she can do, Shakespeare with Patrick Stewart.
Or just be the mom and be real and genuine and perfect as that. I know she has such range.
That was in Traveling Pants, right?
Yes, exactly. Right? Exactly.
Yeah. Have you been out to their house in Ojai?
Yes, years ago. It's been a long time since I've been there, but that is a magical place, and I know that's Peter's heaven there.
Yeah, wow, he is such an extraordinary gardener.
Yes,
and he has actually he went to Africa and he culled the oldest plant on the earth. He went into the middle of the Sahara, I suppose, and he found the oldest plant on the earth. You can only find like a tiny little cutting. He brought it to this greenhouse, which he built, and he nourished it. And now it's about this big. It's literally the oldest plant in the world. It's so cool.
That's amazing. Where are you, by the way, in this beautiful green, lush?
California. The land of the real and mostly the unreal.
That perfectly said.
Yeah,
But you're a New York boy, right? You're a
I
massive
am.
people. Yeah.
I am. I'm a New York. I'm a Borough Park, Brooklyn born. Maimonides Hospital, 49th and 10th, where I started my life. So I consider myself a Brooklyn guy. Then we moved to Flushing, Queens, Franklin Avenue off of Main Street.
Oh
Do you
yeah,
guys know? You know Flushing?
Yeah, we're both. I mean, we're both. I'm a New Yorker. Christine has been a New Yorker for a long time.
Yes.
Where are you from originally, Christine?
I'm originally from Allentown, Pennsylvania.
Right on. I've been there, man. I've been there. It's such a cool town. Such great people. The real deal. I had a girlfriend who oh no, it was a friend of mine from college who wanted to introduce me to a girl who lived in a trailer, Allentown. And I went all the way out there, and it didn't work. It wasn't for us. But I got to spend two.
Living in a trailer in Allentown wasn't for you?
I was going to say, as appealing as that sounds.
It was, and listen, I don't judge.
No judgment.
But,
No judgment.
Hey, listen, I've lived in a trailer. So, but I loved Allentown. It was some of the best diner food I've ever had was in Allentown. The best diner food. I was there actually at some diner. You might know what it is. I forgot the name. And I was joking with the waiter, and I said, I'd like lobster. It was 10 in the morning. And they said, we've got it. Went, you're kidding me.
Hold on, Steve. Was the diner called Boogie's?
No, but Boogie's.
Quite a segue.
I have to talk. We had
walked right into that, Steve.
Yeah,
you walked right into this.
You said diner 3 times, so how can I not?
That's the magic bell.
Steve, we had Tim Daly on the show, who's also a friend of mine, and Diner was one of my favorite movies of all time. And we talked about how, like, obviously Barry Levinson and you and Mickey Rourke, Tim Daly, Paul Reiser, Daniel Stern. The amount of careers that movie started is mind-boggling. But what I want to know is, because I don't remember the plot of the movie. Someone was getting married and there was a quiz and all this stuff. But what I do remember is Paul Reiser.
You don't remember the plot?
There was not much plot, but Paul Reiser
he
drove Steve crazy. There was these scenes in the diner where Paul Reiser would say, "Are you going to finish that?" And Steve would say, just ask me for a bite. I'll give you some. He's like, no, I don't want a bite, but if you're not going to finish it. And he goes, you can't just ask a question and you beat around the bush and you beat around the bush. And the dialogue, that's what I remember was.
Yeah, the dialogue.
How much was the improvisation in that movie?
Barry had a really cool style, which he created, I suppose. It was his first directing job, where he would write the scene. And then at the end of the scene, funnily, the first time we did, the first scene we ever shot was in the whole movie was Timmy and I in the billiard hall.
Yeah.
And at the end of the first take, it just sort of kept going. So Timmy and I kind of looked at each other and we started to improv a little bit because Barry forgot to say cut. So we kept going. So I think he created this cool style that he would give us the scene. And both of you know, as actors, what it's like. And at the end of the scene, he would let it run out. That was our time for us to improv and do our thing. So at the end of that scene, he would cut it and they'd say, wow, I really liked A, B, and C. I didn't like D, E, F. Can you let's do the whole scene, just do A, B, and C. That's how it worked. So Paul and I, and the rest of the actors too, and Kevin and Danny and everybody, Mickey, we would all improv and see what we could use and what could be used. And then Barry would shape it. So that stuff came from Paul and I improving. Then Barry would stop and say, wow, I like this. Let's do that. Let's keep that going. So yeah, there was some improv and there was a lot of writing, but the script itself was Barry's. It was the real deal.
It was so groundbreaking back then because now, it reminds me of what Larry David does on Curb Your Enthusiasm for the last 25 years. It's just give the actors an outline. Here's your motivation and just go with it.
Yeah, I think Barry sort of created that in a certain sense. And he also was one of the forerunners of having two mics on an actor where you didn't have to worry about overlapping. We had this great guy named, I think his name was Dennis Knight. He won an Academy Award, I think, for Deer Hunter. He was our sound mixer and sound man. So at the very beginning, we would sort of run over each other, and Barry and the sound man would say, well, you can't do that. You can't overlap. Right. Barry said, why? He goes, well, because of this reason. He goes, well, can we put two mics on them and then just have them overlap with two mics? And Dennis said, yeah, I guess so. And then we did that. And that's how that theory and that style happened. And I think he created it for everybody else. By the way, not to do a tangent, did you see Tim's new play?
I saw it.
Oh,
I saw it closing night.
How was it? I didn't see it.
Wonderful.
Great.
It was wonderful. He was incredible. It was such a like a really timely piece of theater writing.
Wow.
About two people. I know this is a tangent, but two people who come together who were a couple when they were younger and in love.
Yeah.
And then they parted ways, and they come back together for a night together, and they realize their politics are different now. That he's gone a little more right wing, and it's sort of, they have this night, and then they get into this whole discussion about how they can't, like how she can't be with him if that's how, there's no resolve. They were both wonderful. The playwright was a young woman. The director was a young woman. It was great. And I was so happy to see it. I love seeing him on stage. But that's our Tim Daly tribute. That's
our Tim. And I actually saw Tim in this really cool play with Annette Bening called something, The Lifeguard or something to that effect, where this was like 30 years ago. He was on stage with Annette Bening and he did an incredible job. He's a really magnificent actor. And he's got all that DNA in him,
Totally. From from diapers, really.
Yeah, from his dad. His dad was on Medical Center. Do you remember his dad on that Chad Everett TV show? This cool TV show. And his mom was a great actor. And of course, his sister, everybody.
Oh, Tyne Daly. Yeah, right.
Yes. How about you, Steve? Did you start when you were really, really young? And did you have any show business ties? Because we know a little bit about your dad because we want to talk about the book.
Oh, yeah.
I know. Yes, we got to get to that, but we have time. But how did it all start for you?
We had a very good family friend named Michael Bell, who was a very popular working actor. And he would always come to our house, and he was doing well. He had beautiful girlfriends. So when people say, what do you want to do? I'd say, what does Michael do? And they would say, he's an actor. And I go, well, that's what I want to be. So when I was 12, I started doing theater. And then when I was 17, my mom and dad gave me $300 and let me come out to California for, actually, and this is a story in my book, and let me come out for 2 weeks to become a movie star.
They gave you $300 and a finite period.
$300 in 2 weeks. You got go be a movie star.
That's enough.
That's enough, right?
It was for you, I guess.
It worked.
That's enough. So I got a commercial. I got a Kentucky Fried Chicken commercial. And then when I got the commercial, my parents let me stay another 2 weeks. And then it lasted into a year. And I did a bunch of movies. I did a movie with Phil Silvers. And really funny story. And actually, in my book, Time to Thank, which I've got to remember that when I'm on, I get carried away because I like you guys and I like most people, but you are special. But I do love, talking about stuff, but I got to remember, I got to promote my book, Time to Thank. But I took that $300 and I used it all on photographs. And I got these crazy guys to pick me up in a Cadillac, take me to a McDonald's, take pictures. They dropped me off at a bus station. They said, call us in a week and we'll give you your photos. I gave them the $300 and I didn't
Never
know.
saw them again.
Well, no, I did, but I called my father and for the payphone, he goes, are you out of your effing mind? You gave all your money away for photographs? I go, yeah, Dad.
They better have been good.
That's a lot for headshots back then.
It was. Yeah, it was a ton. Yeah.
What was your first? So you got a Kentucky Fried Chicken commercial. What was your first big break? Diner?
No, 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 no. Well, that came when I was 22 and I was 17 when I started.
Oh wow.
I worked out in California. I did a movie called Something for Joey about John Capoletti, which was a really famous at that time flick, about a little kid who's sick. His brother was a big football player, and I played one of the other brothers. And it really did well. I did a comedy with Phil Silvers, and then I did a bunch of commercials, and I quit. I don't really like the culture of show business. I love the craft. I love the art, but the culture is a tough culture.
Oh yeah.
And I left. I quit after a year, and I went to SUNY, Albany State, and I started a normal life. I always say, and especially in my book, Time to Thank, I always say that my dad was an extraordinary man in an ordinary life, and I am an ordinary man in an extraordinary life.
Oh,
Um,
that's great.
and
Beautiful.
yeah, and I couldn't take it out here. It was too weird. It still is pretty weird. And But I'm out here and I look after my mom. But I went back to New York, and about 6 months into my college career, I got another call from my agent who said they really are interested in you for a movie called Boys from Brazil with Greg Peck and Larry Olivier
Oh,
and
oh
James
my
Mason.
goodness.
And
Oh
I
my
was
gosh. Anne Mira is in that movie, I think. Boys from Brazil. Am I getting it wrong?
I'm not sure if she's
May,
in that. Is
I'm
she
gonna
in that?
I don't know. I could be wrong. Or
We've got
maybe she might have a scene, or maybe it's a
Wait a
story that
minute.
we know that she auditioned for it.
We should find that out. I directed Anne in a TV school after school special.
No, no.
Yes, yes, and I went out to dinner with Jerry and Ann so many times,
Oh my
and I
God.
really
Mm.
enjoyed their company. And Ann was so frank.
Oh, that's an
She
understatement.
she was so wonderfully frank with me. I really enjoyed her company,
Oh,
and she was always so nice to me and so good to me, and taught me so much. And Jerry really was such a serious guy.
Yeah. Ann Mira was in Boys from Brazil. She's in this
yes.
cast list. Yes.
Right. She was in it.
Yes. But
I remember talking to her about that when we shot in Jersey. Yeah, she
and
was
Steve,
in
it's
that
so
night.
funny that you just said that about Jerry, because we had Ben on last week, and Ben said the same thing. We talked about Jerry. He said, his character on Seinfeld was not his personality. That was
Yeah,
a lot of but he was sensitive and quiet and listened
man.
and very, really looked you in the eye when he was
Yeah,
not trying to crack jokes every second. And
I
it's so
really
funny
enjoy.
that
I
you
really enjoyed his company. Yeah,
Oh, thanks, Steve. That's really
yeah,
lovely. I love these 6 degrees of separation.
yeah.
The cast of this movie: Gregory Peck, Laurence Olivier, James Mason, Uta Hagen, Steve Guttenberg, Rosemary Harris, and I mean,
It's such a crazy movie.
Crazy movie. That's right. Anne was in it. I
Yes.
forgot, and then I remember her telling me, and she actually. I'm giving my Anne Mira imitation.
Oh, please.
Idiot! I was in the movie with you. I go, and then she goes, "But you got killed, so you don't remember."
that's
It's
great.
perfect. It's perfect.
Idiot. I love that.
Idiot. Yes.
Yeah, idiot. I was in the movie with you. Yeah,
So that was what you got called back to do when you were
yeah,
start in college, and that was
yeah,
you tempted to say no, or too tempted? It
yeah.
was too good to pass up.
No, I said no. I said no. I don't want to do this.
Oh my
It's
gosh.
well, the culture of the life of an actor is not my speed. It's a tough life. It's a weird life. It's tougher than a normal civilian life, and I knew that. And I did not want it. But my dad, and I say this in this book, Time to Thank. My dad said, "Look, go down to New York City, meet these people, meet Gregory Peck. What's the worst that can happen?
That's
You
good
meet,
advice.
You meet
you
a
meet,
legend.
you meet Guns of Navarone. You meet Roman Holiday. You bring your camera, and if nothing happens, you take a picture with Gregory Peck." I go, "Okay."
Oh, that's
So
I love your dad. I
yeah,
love your
yeah.
dad.
So I went down there and I auditioned, and they said, you've got it. And I said, no, don't say that to me. Just call my agent and let's see if I really want it. And then they called me, and then I got it.
And
Wow.
the rest is history.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm going to be really smart. I'm going into the house, and I'm getting my book.
Perfect.
I love that your dad gave you $300 and sent you out to become a movie star for 2 weeks, and then you go back to school, and then he's the one that says, go to the city, audition with Gregory Peck. What? That's amazing support from a father in a career that's, tenuous.
He always said to me, you don't have to do this. Funny story, Billy Joel grew up right near us.
Oyster
And
Bay.
yeah, he was in Hicksville, and we're in a town of Oyster Bay.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know it? Do you know town of
Oh
Oyster
yeah,
Bay?
listen, I'm from Scarsdale, New York. My wife is from Long Island, and we have family. We spent so much time on Long Island.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So what happened was, um, he always used to sing "Just the Way You Are" to me, and he would always say, "Look, you are a good person, and you have to be very, very careful about being in a very, very glamorous life." So he said, at any time you can leave this glamorous life anytime you want. And I always thought that that was one of the smartest things I ever heard from anybody about show business, that you can leave this glamorous life anytime you want it. And I still think that. I actually still think that, because it's very rough on the psyche. Both of you know that. You know, I'm sure Ben knows that. A bunch of my friends who are actors. It's an odd way. I have a friend of mine I had dinner with him last night, a guy named Duran Silverman. He was a very, very popular manager 20 years ago. He did literary and actors. And his father had a furniture business, and he took over his father's business. And he's in that business right now. He's not in show business. His brother, though, a guy named Greg Silverman, was president of Warner Brothers for years, and now has a company called, I think, Stampede. And they do a bunch of pictures. But he said he had to leave show business. It just wasn't right for him. And I think and my dad used to say that to me all the time. He said, you just don't have, anytime you want, you can take your marbles and go home. And I think that it's a very smart thing for an artist to have in the back pocket. You want to paint, you don't have to sell your paintings. You can paint as a hobby. Some of the greatest painters I've ever seen don't sell their paintings. They do other things. Anyway, but I don't bite the hand that fed me, because all my clothes, all the table, this coffee cup, was bought through acting.
Right.
And I really appreciated it,
Yeah,
Right.
Steve, you have one of the most prolific careers, not just artistically and creatively, but commercially. I mean, the Police Academy movies, the Three Men and a Baby franchise, Cocoon. I mean, so it's interesting that you always had
Short Circuit. Thank you.
I know.
Short,
no, we were. Wait, when you came in, we were talking about Short Circuit and how obsessed we were with Short Circuit. Like your movies shaped us. Truly, no, we are not. On. Nope. You were a constant.
But it blows my mind that in the back of your head, you were always thinking, I've got one foot out the door on this thing.
I always thought that. And I'm dedicated to my craft, but I do know my personal nature. And it's a sharp toothed, animal,
Yeah, Steve, I saw some of your interview with Tony Danza from the 92nd Street Y. I saw it on YouTube. It was such a great interview. And You said something to him. I think it was, or it might have been an audience question, but you said something about you're the most comfortable when you get to be yourself around people and you're a nice guy. And some people will take advantage of that or stomp on you for that. And you are like, our son is a very sensitive kid, but he's so sweet. And there's a book that I have that I've been called The Highly Sensitive Person. And it's really about how you approach the world with being a sensitive soul, because the world is not the people around you, particularly in the entertainment industry. They don't care about that. I mean, it's nice if you happen to be a nice person, but that's not at the top of their list when they're hiring you. And
No.
I just feel like that's who you are. That's your soul. It's just you, David and I, before you came in, we talked about your Instagram account and what you're putting out there in the world, this positivity. And it's infectious. And what you're doing is so beautiful. And I just want to thank you for that.
Me too.
It makes a
So
difference.
Nice of you. So nice of you. Thank you. Because, sometimes kindness is viewed as a weakness.
Exactly.
Exactly. Wow.
And satire, irony, sarcasm, in the right context are great. But a lot of times, especially in our business, they're used as weapons and they're used as jousting tools. And then the guy who's going to be sincere is looked at as a less of a value.
Yes.
I do find that I do have friends who are sincere and aren't as sarcastic all the time. And then there's a great deal of value and connection in that. And that I think at the end of the road, you do want to be around people that, if you say, hey, give me a hand, instead of saying, yeah, I guess I will. Sure. As opposed to somebody going, yeah, what do you need?
Right.
And you want that guy to say, what do you need? As opposed to the guy who's sarcastic. And sarcasm is very funny and very, very entertaining. But I think that it's a dangerous default where people go right to, and I get it. Well, it's funny.
It's less intimate. It's less vulnerable. You're putting on a sort of protective shield in a way, right? I can sort of deflect this with my humor or sarcasm.
Yeah.
And I think just hearing what you're talking about and back to the book, just your dad at the peak of your stardom, you had the world at your fingertips, was like, knows you to the core, knows your soul, sees you on the inside, not just as the movie star, not just as the actor in Hollywood, and knows who you are as a person. And to be able to say that, because listen, our parents are so proud when we're successful, right? They love to brag and they love to, but for him to say you can walk away at any time.
Yeah.
Is, and just the and I can't wait to read the book. I'm getting it. It's going to be my summer reading. I really, I have parents who are still around. David, you lost your parents. And I just feel like it's a universal subject that we all can relate to of connection, when your parents get older. And so talk a little bit about that and how with your dad, how it just, for you it wasn't even a question. It sounds like it was just your calling to be with him.
Yeah. In my book, I had a difficult time talking about and writing, particularly writing that part where I had to accept that my dad was not who he was. My dad was one of the only Ranger trained soldiers who was Jewish. Went to Fort Bragg, went to signal school, and then became a New York City policeman, where most of the policemen weren't Jewish, and became a tough cop. And my dad was always an exercise freak and always in great shape. And when he got sick, he lost his physical mojo. And it was really tough on him and really tough on his son to see your dad lose weight and not be who he was. And not only is that tough, it's really tough to write about and to rewrite and to live that again and again and again. You have these memories that David, did you go through caregiving when your mom and dad were not
Uh,
well?
my dad passed away suddenly from a heart attack. I got a call at 4 in the morning.
Wow.
I was on a
Oh
plane.
man.
Yeah, but my mom was diagnosed with cancer, and then she beat it for a number of years. So she was in remission, and when it came back, it was a couple of years. I flew to New York so many times. I would sleep in her bed. We'd watch King of Queens or Raymond or her, and just spent time together.
Yeah,
But
yeah, yeah.
when I was reading, I read the first chapter of your book because I just got it yesterday. So I'm going to obviously continue it. But the first chapter, you talk about how, you're creeping out of the house at 3 in the morning, just as your father used to get up very early. And you'd ask him, why do you get up so early? To put food on the table for you. And you'll understand it when you're older. And that sort of like, full circle thing. You woke up at 3 in the morning and would drive from LA to Phoenix to take care of him during his kidney treatments every week. Is that correct?
Yeah. Yeah, well, almost every week I would. Yeah. And it was I tell you something, when I would walk in that room at 9 o'clock in the morning and there's my dad and he'd say, "Ah, you're
Oh,
here." And
Hmm.
his face lit up and his eyes, black, black shark eyes, would open wide. It was as if I got what the greatest thing in the world, whether it was the lottery or playing Willy
Mm.
Loman on Broadway
yeah.
or something amazing,
Nothing better.
or just being just told when you're 5 years old, you did those blocks great. Um, and he was so happy, and he was such a great listener that there was no question about it. That when a baby cries, you run down the hall. That's just it. When you're crossing a street and someone falls, you don't think, you stop and you pick them up.
Right.
That's just what we do as a good person. There are
Yes.
those people, someone falls, they keep going. There are those people.
Yeah. Well, we see them in New York City. We do see those in New York City a lot.
Yeah.
Yes.
And there are those people who say, I can't pick them up because I have a bad back. Okay. So there are times when people cannot be caregivers. But for the most part, a lot of us are able to. And I particularly was able to be a caregiver because of my particular job. But it was just what I had to do. It was my dad.
And he was a great father to you, so it's
Yeah.
it's easier to do it. I have so many friends that are going through this. Their parents are aging.
Ah, yeah.
They're and if you did not have a great relationship with your parents, or you carry around a lot of resentment about your childhood, it makes it, I would imagine, a lot harder to show up for them every day and take care of them. I mean, it is what you do. It's what we do. But you loved your dad so much, and it's like you're paying him back in this beautiful way.
Yeah. My dad was my hero, and he
Mm.
was always good to me, and he understood me, and he listened. He was the best listener I've ever met. In acting, we always are taught to listen.
Yeah.
My dad listened naturally so well. He was never thinking of his laundry list. He was never thinking of what he had to do. He just listened and he reacted. If you said it was sunny, he'd go, "Oh, sunny! Wow!" He really knew that he would listen to the small nuances of a conversation. Um, and he was strong and he was caring. And when I would screw up, he would take me upstairs. We'd sit on the bed, and he'd say to me, "What's wrong with you, Stephen?" And I would say, "I don't know, Dad." And he'd say, "Okay, don't do that again." And I'd say, "Okay." And that was basically it. And he loved to smile. He had a beautiful smile with his mouth open, but he had a great smile with his mouth pursed. He he would just do that. And he taught me to drive, and he taught me to shave, and he taught me how to talk to people. And I always say everything I ever learned in this world, including talking to you two right now, I learned at my parents' kitchen table.
Mm.
Um, and I mean, I had illegal firecrackers in my room, a drawer full. My mother wanted to throw them in the bathtub and fill it with water and just drown them all. And he said, "No, no, no. we're going to go in the backyard, and Stephen and I are going to light every single one of these firecrackers. And on the 4th of July, we lit a thousand fire. I don't know if you remember what firecrackers came in a belt.
Of course.
144.
Yes.
A belt.
Yes.
Right.
But he was going to, instead of getting rid of them, and he was going to do it safely with you under his supervision, right? You got it's so funny. And in the parent dynamic, there's always the good cop, bad cop.
Oh yeah. My mother was
hard
rough.
ass
My
and
mother
the
was
soft
rough. Yeah. My mother was rough. But my father was sweet and always sweet.
Oh.
And I talk to him every day. And I think about him every day, and I hear his voice and giving me advice, and I visit his grave, whenever I'm in Phoenix, and I do feel that there's something about being close to the what's left of the flesh. I do think that there's something to that. But he was just a great dad, and one of these guys who. Even when he was sick, he never missed a day of dialysis. And when my sister Susan and we went to a medical facility, we learned to become dialysis technicians.
Yeah, this is amazing that you learned this, because this does not sound easy at all.
No, God, just to cannulate someone that you love, put the needles in and out into this huge vein. It's just,
oh my God.
So what was the train? How long was the training for that, Steve?
Training was a few months, and every day, and we'd come in and we would practice on my father.
Oh my God.
It's like learning to fly a plane with your parents in the back seat.
Oh God.
It's just crazy. And then at night we would practice on rubber tubes we would buy from the hardware store. But we were able to, instead of bring my dad to the center every day or every other day, we would cannulate him at home. Because he was a soldier, the VA, the Veterans Administration, is amazing. They are such an incredibly wonderful organization. They created a hospital room in their den, sterile room, where my dad could do dialysis and just toddle out of the bedroom, and we'd hook him up. But it's not an easy process. You take all your blood out, you take this person's blood out, you chill it to 34 degrees, and then you put it back in their body. It's tough on the body.
Wow. That's good to hear, though, that the VA takes good. I love hearing positive things about them taking care of our veterans. Yeah.
We've got a great Veterans Administration, and God bless them. And, God bless this country, which I think we're the only, first of all, we're the only country that really has dialysis available to everybody. Anybody who ever wanted dialysis can get dialysis. Doesn't happen in every country. There are countries when you need dialysis and you don't have the money, you're not getting it. And the Veterans Administration particularly takes care of all their people. So it's wonderful. I think Jerry was in the Army. Was he in the Army?
He was. Yes, he was. And
he told me about that.
Yes. And then went to Syracuse. Yes, exactly.
Because we talked about that. Yeah.
That's so amazing you remember that. What I love about the book, the idea behind writing this, and I can't imagine, I saw in the interview with Tony that you were writing it, so your dad got to read a lot of it. Is that true?
Yeah, he did.
So you were writing it in real time. This is not a retrospective. This was as it was happening. And I think for it, like I said, this is, I mean, there's a statistic of how many caregivers we have in the United States right now, and we have the family members, but we also have the nurses and the people taking care. It's millions and millions, right?
Over 53 million people. Over 53 million people, which is probably 20% of the adult population. And there's a great place called the Rosalind Carter Caregivers Institute in Georgia. And I recommend all caregivers or anybody, because there's actually just a couple of types of people. Either you're going to become a caregiver or you're going to need a caregiver.
Exactly.
Wow.
That's really basically it. And it's and the Rosalind Carter Caregivers Institute keeps an eye on every caregiver and reaches out to everybody. There's all kinds of ways to connect. That's why I started doing social media because I would be in the hospital and I'd be so down. I needed a break and I'd go outside, have coffee. But at 3 a.m, I'd go out and have coffee and there's no one there. So a friend of mine told me about social media. Talk to your phone, and people started writing back, which was so cool.
Right.
And
You're not alone. You can identify. You can hear people's stories. You're
yeah,
reaching people. They're reaching you. And
yeah,
but with the book, you're doing such a service because it's such a selfless act, but it's giving all of yourself to this person that you love at a period of time where they need you more than anything, and
more than anything. Yeah,
it's one of the most thankless jobs.
yeah.
And
It's lonely.
probably a lonely job.
Exactly. You're so
I'm
isolated.
sure these 50 million caregivers feel very alone in their situation, even though there's 50 million people going through similar experience. That's why I think your book can really make people feel everyone goes through this, so you're not alone. And here's my experience.
Yeah, yeah. David, that's so apt because it's a devastating job on the psyche because you're looking at somebody who's not well all day, and that's tough. And then you're anticipating their every need. Do you need ice? Do you need water? Do you need to be picked up in the chair? Is it time to eat? Are you sleepy? You're trying. Do you need your feet rubbed? Do you need your back rubbed? What do you want to watch TV? You want to watch a movie? You and and it's very, very tough on the psyche. And it's correct. It's a very lonely job, and that's why I wrote Time to Thank, because I wanted to tell other caregivers you're not alone.
Right.
People like you, and you know what? The fact that you're doing this is you're an angel. You're an angel to do this. A
Yep.
good person. Yeah.
Yes.
So awesome, man. Well, listen, also, I just got to tell our listeners, the book is called Time to Thank, and I think it's such a beautiful, perfect title. But Steve Guttenberg, everyone should follow his Instagram, because when I wake up and there's someone told me to follow you,
No
and
way.
it's a great way to
Yeah.
start the day, and just like little messages to say good morning. The one the other day, you're walking through New York City, telling people how you woke up in a bad mood and how you talked yourself out of a bad mood.
Yeah.
And that's just it's almost like cognitive behavioral therapy. It's things you can actually use. The one where you said you got to make the effort because nothing happens at home. Get out there and do something.
Also, the one I saw recently was you saying that somebody walked by you on the street and said, "Hey, I love what you do. I love," and you said thank you and said, I should be saying that to more people now because it felt so good for me to hear it.
Yeah.
I should be saying that now.
And it's a butterfly effect, right?
Yes.
You say good morning to someone, it pays forward. And conversely, if you honk your horn or give someone the finger, that goes out into the universe.
It does. It does. There's love. And I know this is a little corny. Love is the most powerful force on earth. And when it doesn't have to be there's different types of love. But when you give out love, even in a good morning, hello, you're walking down the street, hello, there's a form of love in that. It's very, very powerful.
Yep.
It increases the vibration, the frequency. It elevates the consciousness to that moment. And that's when you're doing that, and it takes effort and energy. All of a sudden you get replenished and you're able to do it again.
Yes. As a New Yorker too, I find that, there's so many dogs and dog walkers and, you're interacting, and I always know the people because I'll give a smile to the dog and then look up to the person, and you can tell right away what kind of person. That's the person that wants to engage with you and loves that you love their dog or are having a reaction. And then there are the ones that are just will not even give you a look.
Right.
And
if your dog tries to go over to someone, they pull their dog away and walk past you, it makes you feel bad, right?
It makes me feel bad. I feel sad. And then I feel sad for the dog because I thought, oh, what a bummer that's the dog.
Right. The two dogs probably wanted to say hello.
Exactly. And at the same time, which I'm trying to be great at, when someone doesn't say hello, I try to say, I don't know what's going on with that person.
Right. True.
And
Yep.
I've got to think maybe they just came from something that was bad.
Right.
And
Don't be so quick to judge,
You
right?
never know. You never
I
know.
don't know. Now, a lot of people can be jerks because they're jerks. They pull their dog because they're a jerk. Now that's you're a jerk, okay, man.
Right.
And there's other words I can use, but you're a jerk.
Right.
And then there's the guy who lost his keys to his car, and all he's thinking about is where the f are my keys,
Right.
and I got to pull my dog back because I don't want to deal with anything. I'm trying to remember where are my keys.
Right.
Now that's a very benign problem, but so I try to I'm not good at it. I'm not great at it. I'm trying to be better every day, trying to be a little better every day. I try to do one good thing on my house every day, one good thing in my career, one good thing in my personal life. I try to do as many as I can. But this life is a complicated, strange life. My dad used to say, in between New York and LA, there are 300 million people, other people, trying to live happy lives. Everybody, we're New York, LA, where we are right now. We think we're the thing. We're not the thing. There's lots of different ways to live a life, and if we could, all the Seneca and and Aristotle and everyone's talked about this. Even the E. E. Cummings poems. Try to give what you can to other people. Try to give what you can. And listen, I'm no angel. I'm not perfect. I've got a million flaws, but I really am trying. And I'm sure both of you, after sitting and talking with you, I know that both of you are like that too. We're trying. Yes, we have our flaws, but man, if you're trying,
all you can do is try.
Yeah.
Right? That's it. You're not always going to succeed, but it's making that effort. It really is.
Being of service in this world, being of service to others. I don't think there's anything more important.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you're a living example of that.
Yeah, you really are. One last question before we let you go, because your Instagram description says actor, writer, sandwich maker. Would you like to explain that?
I would.
Do tell.
Jealous?
A little jealous.
I'm hungry.
I'd like to know the specialty sandwich, your fave.
Toasted rye bread, tuna fish made with a lot of mayonnaise, celery, and tiny bit of mustard, lettuce, tomato, cut in half with a pickle on the side. That is one of my specialties. I don't get to make it very often, but I love to make sandwiches. And I this morning I had a ham and cheese, and it was and I toasted it, and it was delicious.
Yes, but, the toasted. Yes,
the toasted. But I think what I'm metaphorically saying is I like regular things, and I think everyone does. There's one thing to be at a very fancy restaurant, 5-star restaurant, eating, foie gras and pheasant under glass. But isn't it wonderful, no matter who you are, to sit at the kitchen table, have a sandwich, something to drink, good conversation with someone you care about and that cares about you. And that's what I mean by sandwich maker.
Oh, I love that. I love the metaphor.
It's so true. It's the little things.
And one last shout out that for the 40th anniversary of the Police Academy, that you recently visited the new, right? The new, what do you call it? The new troop? What do you call it?
I went to the Nassau County Police Academy.
Yes.
And it is an amazing place. If anybody's in New York, you want to go visit it. And I was there for the first day of the new recruits.
The new recruits. That's the word I was looking for. The new recruits.
Is that where that's where the Police Academy movies were set?
No, well, not in that particular academy, but they were set in an academy. We actually used I think a psychiatric institute in Toronto were the
How
buildings.
fitting.
Yeah.
How fitting.
Yeah. Crazy cop. And my dad was a cop. My dad was an NY. New York City police
Exactly.
cop. Yeah, yeah.
Oh, so he must have been thrilled to see how funny you made the whole. That was one of the funniest movie franchises I've ever made.
Oh, it's so amazing. It's so amazing. And they're talking about, doing another one. And my dad gave me, and I talk about it in the book, gave me his police academy shirt for my screen test.
No.
My screen test, yes.
Wow.
And it was my lucky shirt. And
I was gonna say,
yeah, and they're
lucky
gray.
shirt.
Those shirts are gray as opposed to blue for the uniform of a policeman. So I wore it, and the director, Hugh Wilson, said, "Hey, boy, would you make that?" I said, "No, this is my dad's real police academy shirt."
Oh, it gave you an authenticity in that
Yeah,
screen test.
Yeah, I think so.
I love it.
This was amazing.
Steve, thank you so much.
Christine, David, I really had such a nice time, and you guys are so wonderful. You're such lovely people, and I love your podcast. And you guys have a good nature, and we all sort of copy each other. And your good nature, your generosity, your sense of humor is what people will copy, and that's a pretty darn thing to duplicate. Pretty great.
Oh,
thank you so much. Congratulations on the book, Time to Thank. I can't wait to continue.
I can't wait to read it.
We loved having you. We loved having you.
All the best. Have a wonderful summer. Sending you so much love.
Love to you guys too. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks, Steve.
Bye.
What a fantastic, beautiful person.
He might be my new favorite person. I just, it's done. It's done. And also every time, and we've had so many guests who have some 6 degrees of separation moment with my in-laws. And that makes me feel even more connected to him too. The stories he remembers and his Anne impression. And I mean,
yeah, that was great. Oh my gosh.
I really look forward to reading his book. And I hope, any of our listeners out there order it, because it's, as he said, there's 2 people. You're going to either become a caregiver or you will need one at some point, for the loved ones in your life. And it's just a beautiful message. What a great guy.
And he's so humble about his career because, I mean, let's be honest, he was in so many of the biggest movie franchises for decades.
No, we could have done an entire other interview. We wanted to really honor his book, but we really, and we will.
I got my diner stories though.
You did. That was great. He was so happy with that.
He happened to say
he walked right into it.
Yeah, he said diner 3 times. I'm like, all right, I got to go right into that.
That's it. We're gonna do that.
All right, I got to get to this
yes,
graduation.
Go. Happy graduation! Thanks for listening,
Thanks
everybody.
For listening.
Come back next week. Okay.
Have a great week, everyone.
Thanks for listening. Make sure to subscribe and give us 5 stars.
And please follow us on Instagram at HeyDude, the 90s Called. See you next time.